workflow rule. Now, similar to a workflow rule is an approval process. Okay. So what is an approval process? Approval process is where you want to have a process of approval in place. Process of approval, when I say, I mean you want the records to be approved. Okay. So in workflow, what is happening? The record meets certain criteria, you send an email or you do some action, and that's it. But in approval process, the record meets some criteria, and based on the record meeting the criteria, you want an approval from someone. Okay. I mean, just take a simple example. When you apply for leave or something in your company, it goes to your manager. So automatically, I mean, system should control that approval process. You should not need to go to the manager and say, well, okay, fine, I need this and all that stuff, right? So Salesforce manages for this kind of thing. Okay. Let's say in this case, Vijay is the CEO of the company. Okay, for that Salesforce instance that we are talking about. Anytime price of product is more than $500, it requires approval from, let's say, now this is a scenario. It's not just about sending an email and that's it. It is about, if the price is more than $500, it requires an approval. So how this works? The moment you create the record will be created. Okay. Then it automatically sends, I mean, we will define the approval process so that it automatically sends an approval request to the approver. We have the option of defining who we want to be the approver. Approver will have to accept or reject it. Okay, if he accepts it, that will be approved, and if he rejects it, it will be rejected. So that is it, right? So let's work on that. So for that, first thing that I'll do is we'll create a pick list field in the product. We'll create a drop down called approval status. So that drop down will indicate whether that price was approved or not, and the value to the drop down we will control through our approval process. Fine. So let us create a pick list field in this same object. So I'm just creating a drop down field here. Which is a pick list, and I made it a read only field. Did I? Fine. So now the product object has a field which is a approval status, right? Here we have three options: pending, approved, denied. Okay. Now this approval status field, I want to control this through my approval status, approval process. So I would design an approval process, and through that approval process this should be controlled. So whatever is the stage of the approval, it should automatically be updated here, right? So that the user actually comes on the record and end user, and he can see whether it is an approved price or it is a denied price, what exactly the price there is, right? So this thing we have done. I just wanted to make this to indicate whether the record has been approved or not. Fine. Now let us go and set the approval process. Go to create workflows and approvals, approval process. So this is also very simple. Here you just have to select the object for which you want to define the approval process. Criteria you have to define. Approval you have to select, and action you have to select. So, but in approval process it's not a single action, right? In approval process it is going to be a series of actions. Why? Because it's a complete process. Initially the approval process will be initiated. If it is approved, then what should happen? If it is rejected, then what should happen? So we will have to define actions for all the stages, right? But that is it. So you just need to keep these 3-4 things in mind. What do you have to define? Object, criteria, approval, who should be the approver, and what action you want to perform. That's it, nothing else. Very simple. So go to manage approval process, select the object, as I said, first thing. Okay, done. Now create new approval process, click on this drop down and select the jump start wizard. Pick a name. Price approval. That's it. Just define the name of the approval process. You don't need to do anything else here. Define your entry criteria or the rule criteria, whatever. So what is the criteria that we are actually going to work on? Okay, I'm taking this thing. The criteria that we are talking about here is price is greater than 500. Okay. Then who will be the approver? So we have the option of letting the submitter choose the approver manually. That time whoever is submitting the record for approval can choose the approver and all. But what we will do, we will assign it to a given user. So which user we want to assign it to? We said Vijay will be the approver. So if you have a fixed approver, then you should do this. Okay. Select that user who's going to be the approver for it. Click on save. Okay. So now you just click on this view approval process detail page. Go to this. And here you have to define the action. The way in workflow we define action, here also we have to define action, but Here we have action at different stages. Initial submission action, final approval action, final rejection action. So here action is to be defined in all the stages, right? So for every stage we have to define action here. So when the record is initially submitted for approval, then what action should happen? So I want to do a field update when it is submitted for approval. When the record is submitted for approval, if the record is approved, if it is rejected. So all three stages, three actions need to be defined. So I want to update the field when the record is submitted for approval. Give it any name again. Which field you want to update? Approval status. When the record is submitted, approval status field should be automatically updated to approval pending. When it is submitted, the approval will be pending, right? Click on save. Final approval action. Final approval action means what do you want to do if the record is approved by the approver. I want to go and update the field. Which field? Approval status. What should be the value? Price approved. Final rejection action. What do you want to do if the record has been rejected or it has not been approved by the approver? Again, I want to go and do a field update. Update the field to price denied. Save. So action here is not a single action, so you have to define action for different stages: when the record is being submitted, when it is being approved, when it is being rejected. All three actions we have defined. The same field, I mean, we have just given three different values of the same field in three different stages. Now you just need to go and activate this. That's it. Activate the approval process. Same like workflow rule, this is also something that you have to activate. Activated the approval process. Now let's go and work on this. Let's test it. Go to product, click on new, create a new product. Price I have put more than 500 so that it can be sent for approval, right? Approval status I'm not adding or putting anything here, right? This field will be controlled by my approval process, right? Let's click on save. So as of now approval status is blank, right? Nothing is there. Now this record needs to be submitted for approval. Because it meets the criteria, the end user will have to manually submit it for approval. The approval process will begin only when it is submitted for approval. Okay. So you have to go and submit this for approval. It says once you submit this record, you cannot edit and all those things. It's fine. Click on OK. See, the moment I submitted it for approval, you see approval status automatically got updated to approval pending. Prior to this it was blank. Got it? Now if the approver, I have submitted it, it has gone to the approver. If the approver approves it, it will again be automatically updated to approved, and if he rejects it, will automatically be updated to rejected, right? So first of all, what will happen? The approver would receive an email. Okay, there's a predefined email template. Approver receives an email regarding the approval request. Okay, that is one thing. So Vijay, have you received that email for approval request? Fine. So whoever is the approver will receive that email request. Vijay has also received it. Okay. That is one thing. It's just a basic email template that you have received an approval request and all. Okay. Now where does the approver go and approve it? Approver needs to go to the home page. If you remember, on the home page we had a thing called items to approve. See, it will come and sit on the items to approve section on the home page of the approver. See, this is where he will receive it, the approver. Now it is just his wish whether he approves it or rejects it. Let's say he wants to reject it by saying price too high and reject. So this approval request, the manager or whoever is the approver is rejecting it, it will go and automatically update the value here in the record. Approval status price denied. Got that? And ideally, while you are creating this approval process, you should, in case you want to update a field called approval status or something through approval process, you should keep it as a read-only field. You should make it a read-only field, so that no one can manually go and change it. You should keep it a read-only field. That's very important. Otherwise, the manager has rejected, but someone can manually go and make it approved, which we can do it right now. But this should not be the case, right? So there should be a read-only field which is completely controlled only by the approval process. Clear on that? Approval process? Tell me if you have a question.